Hello everyone, welcome to our channel Do to Study. So here I am again with a new video from the chapter second phase of the Indian national movement. Okay, so it's the second video from this chapter. In part 1 we have discussed up to the effects of the anti-partition movement, isn't it? So here we will start from Surat split. Okay, so before coming to Surat split, let's revise. See, in that impact of the anti-partition movement, we saw that they decided to adopt the ideas of Swadeshi and boycott, isn't it? So from that point itself, this Surat split or the matter of Surat split started. Actually, here in Surat split, we are talking about the split in the Congress. That is between the rivalries between the early nationalists and the assertive nationalists led to the split in the Congress, and thus there were two wings of Congress. Okay, one was the early nationalists and the other was the assertive nationalists. Okay, now these early nationalists were those who followed, it means they followed non-violent methods to achieve their objectives. Okay, but whereas the assertive nationalists were aggressive and they wanted to be self-dependent, and their ways, their methods to achieve their objective included violence. Okay, that is protests, agitations. These all were included in the method of attaining their objective. Okay, this was for the assertive nationalists. Now what happened? It was said that to stand against this movement, that is the anti-partition movement, the ideas of Swadeshi and boycott will be adopted, isn't it? It was a very good thing also. But what happened? The assertive nationalists wished that this Swadeshi and boycott should not only be limited to Bengal, but it should be extended to other parts of the country also, so that the whole country can stand up against the British by using these two powerful weapons. Okay, but whereas the early nationalists opposed this, they said that no, that should not be done, and this Swadeshi and boycott should only be limited to Bengal. And furthermore, they were not very supportive to the boycott movement too, because it was against their law, that is prayer, petition and protest, isn't it? They wanted to follow non-violent methods, but this boycott will surely involve some violence or some, isn't it? As you can understand, there would not be peace, isn't it? So now you can see that there was a great difference in the ideology of the assertive nationalists and the early nationalists. On one hand, the assertive nationalists wanted to use Swadeshi and boycott as a very powerful weapon, and it should be extended to whole of India so that everyone can stand against the British. But whereas, on the other hand, you can see that the early nationalists only wanted Swadeshi, but the early nationalists wanted that Swadeshi should only be adopted in Bengal. Okay, so it was the first difference, you can say, first difference in ideology that was showed up after the anti-partition, after the partition of Bengal was introduced. Okay, furthermore, this rivalry was also seen in the session of 1906. Okay, that is in the Calcutta session in 1906. Okay, now here there were also different opinion for the presidency. Okay, for the candidature of the presidency. But after all the dispute, Dadabhai Naoroji, who was respected by both the wings of the Congress, that is the early nationalists and the assertive nationalists, a final result came, and that was Dadabhai Naoroji was made the president of the Indian National Congress in the session of 1906. Okay, but still here also this rivalry did not end. Okay, that is the differences. It was not actually rivalry, it was the differences in ideology. Okay, that made them different. One said that we should be aggressive and we should be more self-reliant than depending upon the British or then showing true faith to the British. But on the other hand, the early nationalists had faith in the British rule and they believed that the British will give us justice one day. Okay. Now, these differences continued, and here in the Surat, that is the Surat session of 1907, again the differences surfaced. Okay, now there was again a confusion who should be the next president. The assertive nationalists suggested the name of Lala Lajpat Rai, whereas the early nationalists suggested the name of Rashbihari Ghosh. Okay, but finally what happened? The assertive nationalists were expelled out of the Congress and Rashbihari Ghosh became the president of the Indian National Congress. Okay, in the year 1907. So now you understood that why here we are discussing Surat split of 1907. Because in the Surat session, which was conducted in the year 1907, a split in the Congress, that is, Congress was divided into two wings, one the early nationalists and the second the assertive nationalists. This split in the Congress was seen in the Surat session of 1907. Okay. Then, but see, this split in the Congress was a nice opportunity for the British, because split in the Congress meant weakening of the nationalism that was at its peak during that time, isn't it? As the Congress was divided into two groups, now that unity was lost. As a result, the nationalism, the bond or the strength of nationalism also became less. So it was a good opportunity for the British to extend their policies, to extend their powers. Okay. So as nationalism was weakened, therefore the national movement against the British was also weakened. Okay. So here we came to know about the two wings of the Congress and how and why and how this split in the Congress took place. Okay. Next we will learn about the assertive nationalists. See, assertive nationalists, as we have discussed, it's a wing of the Congress which comprised of young leaders whose ideology were totally different from the early nationalists. They did not believe in prayer, protests and petitions. Okay, rather they wanted that we should adopt more self-reliant methods to stand against the British, and we should involve more and more masses in our fight against the British. That is, common people should be involved as much as possible. Whereas while we are discussing about early nationalists, we saw that early nationalists comprised of mainly middle class, that is educated middle class, isn't it? Like lawyers, professors, these people were mostly involved in the early nationalists. But here the assertive nationalists wish to have all the people, that is including the common people of India, in their fight against British. Okay. Now, see, these group of leaders did not agree with the ideology of the early nationalists, and therefore there was a split and they were expelled out of the Congress. Now, why they were called so? That is why they were called assertive nationalists, because they had a different outlook that advocated active resistance to British imperialism. Yes, active resistance. Okay, mark the word active resistance. They wanted to protest, they wanted to fight against the British. It was not that they would just give petitions and prayers to the British. They wanted to stand up, raise their voice against the British. Okay. They condemned British rule in India. They condemned means they opposed British rule in India and held it responsible for the country's downfall. Yes, they understood that this rule that was being continuing for years in India, that is the British rule in India, is the sole reason for the downfall of our country, for the increasing poverty of our country. Okay, they called upon the people of India to make sacrifices for the sake of their country. Yes. Okay, now who were the most prominent leaders of the assertive nationalists? You might have heard about Lal Bal Pal Trio, isn't it? Now these were the three prominent leaders of the assertive nationalists. Who are they? Lala Lajpat Rai, Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Bipin Chandra Pal. Okay, these were the three most prominent leaders of the assertive nationalists. Okay, that is, in the second phase of the Indian national movement, these three leaders were fighting for the independence of India with much activation. Okay, with much energy. Okay, now let's see what were the causes for the rise of assertive nationalism. Why? What was the need? What were the reasons that this new group of nationalists came on the floor? That we have to know, isn't it? First of all, recognition of true nature of British rule. Yes, they become aware of the true nature of the British rule. That relying on the British on the hope that we would get justice one day is just futile. Okay, so understanding this, the new group of leaders, that is the assertive nationalists, came to fill. Now there are many evidences that prove that it's really futile to have faith in the British rule. Now the recent one was the split in, that is a partition of Bengal, isn't it? Partition of Bengal, and there were many others, like when India was under the grip of famines. At that time the British did not pay any heed to the misery of the people, to the people who were dying in the famines. Rather, they conducted parties in celebrating the silver jubilee of the Crown's rule in India. Okay, so in that way they wasted a lot of money, but nothing was done for these people. So it was another evidence that showed that the British did not care, the British did not consider for Indians. Okay. And furthermore, what you can say is that these all things convinced the Indians that India could not make progress under the British imperialism. Okay. Therefore, and these all things, that the true nature of British was not only understood by the assertive nationalists but also by the common people, and therefore these assertive nationalists came front to stand with the common people. Okay, the second one was failure of early nationalists. Yes, early nationalists were nearly a failure because they were not able to achieve their objective in attaining Swaraj. Okay, they just laid their faith on the British, but it was futile because it has been proved earlier also, isn't it? The methods of peaceful constitutional agitation was really opposed by these people, because with these methods nothing was obtained, no success were achieved, but you can say that there were some success, but still it was not as effective as the thought. Okay. Now, see, the early nationalists were loyal to the crown and their political objective was to improve their chances of getting seats in the central provincial legislatures or judicial services. The assertive nationalists said that these people, that the early nationalists were loyal to the British, and through this loyalty they wanted to achieve more seats in the government. Okay. Yes. As I said earlier, the assertive nationalists, the early nationalists only constituted members from the middle class, and the common people or the poor sections of the society were not involved in the struggle to fight against the British. So these were some reasons for the failure of the early nationalists and for the rise of a new group of leaders, that is the assertive nationalists. The third one was the worsening economic condition. See, due to the drain of wealth from India and due to many other reasons, due to high taxation and other reasons, the economic condition of the Indians of India was decreasing day by day, and the only hand behind this was of the British. And furthermore, as I said earlier, that is during famines nothing was done for the Indians, but Queen Victoria's silver jubilee of attaining crown of India was really celebrated with much enthusiasm and pomp, and much money was invested in that. Okay, so this helplessness of Indians revealed that expecting justice from British was really futile. Okay. The fourth one was a growing consciousness among the Indians. That is, there were many writers and agitators who blamed the British rule for the poverty in India. Okay, so by reading these things, by reading these books, by reading these writings, people came to understand more and more about the nature of the British rule. Okay, as a result of which they started protests against the British. The fifth one was need for mass action. Yes, without the full support of the masses, nothing can be done. That is, only the middle class and the upper class of society can't do anything. It needed the whole support. It needed the support of every section of society. And this was possible when the assertive nationalists came to fill. Because the early nationalists only involved the middle classes and educated Indians in their fight. Okay. Now the sixth one was influence of international events. Yes. There were many examples that were set up before the Indians, which proved that the British were not invincible. That is, the British can be defeated by the if all of us, if there was unity. Okay, so like, see, for the first time Japan, it was an Asian country, defeated Russia. Italian forces were defeated by Abyssinians in Ethiopia. In South Africa, Boers fought for 3 years against the British empires. In Ireland, people were waging a full-scale home rule agitation. So these events proved that the British were not invincible, and if the country comes together, then they can be drove out. So this gave an inspiration to the Indians that we can also do that and we can also attain Swaraj. Okay. The seventh one was the growth of education and unemployment. Yes, by this time, that is by the 19th century, more and more people were educated. Many educated Indians were there, but either they were employed with low salaries or they did not have any employment. Okay, so this lack of employment and the people who were employed with lower salaries were really sad for this act of British. Okay, and they also became agitated and stood up against the British. Now, the eighth one was ill treatment of Indians abroad. Although the Indian sepoys, the Indian soldiers, helped the British to achieve many parts of the world. Okay, that is, जो इंडियन सोल्जर्स थे वो ब्रिटिशर्स को बहुत सारी जगह में उनका रूल एस्टेब्लिश करने के लिए हेल्प किया था, बट स्टिल दीज इंडियंस were not treated properly in other countries where the British rule was prevalent. Okay, there was always racial discrimination. Understood? So it was also reason that agitated the Indians, that after all, that although we help them, but still they were not paying respect to us. They were not giving at least human rights to us, and they were discriminating us on the racial grounds. Okay, and a very significant, or most of the times it was seen that in South Africa this was prevalent. Okay, that is, there were separate coaches, separate buses, and separate clubs, hotels, everything for the white. So it was a thing, that is ill treatment of Indians abroad. Then the ninth was existence of a nationalist school of thought. That is, these national leaders came together and they spread nationalism among the masses through their speeches, through their writings, and etc., which instilled nationalism among the Indians. Okay. The 10th one was the repressive policies of Lord Curzon. Yes, Lord Curzon, who was the governor of India at that time, and he ruled for about 20 years in India. During this tenure, he made many repressive policies. Okay, he considered Indians as inferior in race, and he thought that the Indians are meant to be ruled by the British. Okay, so in this view, he made many repressive policies, like like this partition of Bengal was also the main idea of Lord Curzon, although he defined it as a move for the better government, for better administration, as it was not possible for the government to govern such a big area. But the real motive was to weaken nationalism. Okay, now he did not wanted that India should attain freedom, and there were many measures that proved this. That is, that proved the cruel heart of Lord Curzon, or the motive of Lord Curzon, like the Act of 1898, which made it an offense to provoke people against the British. मतलब कि अगर हम अपने स्पीचेस या राइटिंग्स के थ्रू से पीपल को ब्रिटिश के अगेंस्ट खड़ा कर रहे हैं, then it was an offense according to the Act of 1898. Second one was the Calcutta Corporation Act, which reduced the strength of the elected members from India. As you know, some members were also elected from India for the Indian Council, isn't it? But according to the Calcutta Corporation Act of 1899, this number of members who were elected from India was reduced. If this would be reduced, it means that there would be a majority of the British in the council, isn't it? And if that happens, then the voice of the Indians would not be heard. Okay. And then the Official Secrets Act, and the fourth one was the Indian Universities Act of 1904, which imposed strict rules on the colleges. Now, why colleges and universities were targeted? Because these educational institutions were main centers of the Indian national movement. From these centers, from these educational institutions, nationalism evolved among the students, and which later spread among the masses. Okay. Now the 11th and the most important one that triggered, or that helped in the formation of the assertive nationalists, is the partition of Bengal. Lord Curzon announced the partition of Bengal in 1905, isn't it? After this, there was a great anti-partition movement against the a big anti-partition movement was a great anti-partition movement occurred, isn't it? Now, in this anti-partition movement, as an impact of the anti-partition movement, or as an effect of the anti-partition movement, the ideas of Swadeshi and boycott came to play. Now, there was a difference in the ideologies of both the assertive and the early nationalists, as I explained earlier. So, therefore, this partition of Bengal also proved to be a very important reason for the split in the Congress. Okay. See, here Lord Curzon said that it was just a move to facilitate the administration properly. But we know that the real reason was something else, isn't it? But his intention was to divide Hindus and Muslims. So the decision resulted in widespread protests and agitation. The people protested and launched the Swadeshi and boycott movements. All protests were put down with severe repression methods. Okay, Curzon's disregard for public opinion gave ample evidence that the early nationalist policy of petition, prayer and protest could not produce any result. So more assertive methods had to be adopted. See, these methods, as you can see, that after all these protests, prayers and petitions also, the partition movement was not held, isn't it? So here we can see a grave failure of the methods adopted by the early nationalists, that is protests, prayers and petitions. So now it was the time for the assertive nationalists to come to front. Okay, so here we come to the end of this video. In the next video, we will be dealing with the methods of assertive nationalists and further topics. Okay, so till then, study well and bye-bye.